Welcome to a component overview and organization video for Endless Winter. This video will cover how to fit everything that came with the Kickstarter delivery, the base game, the 3 expansions shown here, and all of the small card deck expansions into the base game box. Note that everything fits into the base game box, but not into the base game organizer, so I will also be providing extra recommendations about other storage solutions if you don't have the need to get everything down into one box. I want to draw your attention to the very good guide about where things go in the trays, which if you're just trying to fit in the base game content, this really gives you everything you need. This video will show it to you visually, but if you're only trying to do base game content, they've got you covered. You will need more information though if you're trying to also add all of the components from the expansions. With the Ancestors expansion, the main focus is alternate versions of things in the base game to just increase variability of gameplay. I do not believe there's anything in here that relates to any of the other expansions, so you can freely mix and match these items with the base game without running into any icons you can't resolve. So we have 5 new tribe cards, one for each of the types of tribespeople, and you would just swap in all of these or some of them or whatever to vary the way the game plays. And then you're going to have 5 each level 1 and level 2 artifact cards. You'll also get alternate animals of each of the animal symbol types, and that's the symbol that you find there right next to the eclipsed symbol. And there's 5 each of the more rare types and 10 each of the more common types. And then you'll also get 5 chief cards that are alternates to the base game. They have the same chief names on them, and you would now have 4 options as to what the chief ability is when you choose that chief. And then the last thing you'll find in the Ancestors expansion is if you have the deluxe version of the game with the dual layer monolith boards, the board for cave paintings that is dual layer will be found here in the Ancestors box, at least with delivery of Kickstarter pledges. And the small expansions are also sort of housed in the Ancestors box. In the Cave Paintings expansion, we're going to have our 4 dry erase boards. They have the mammoth side, which is the same for all players, and on the back of each one is an asymmetric side if you choose to play that way. We are going to have our action space for painting. We are going to have our monolith board, either the base flat one, or if you again have the deluxe version, you'll have your dual layer one. If you have the dual layer one, you really don't need this one anymore, so I'm going to set this aside for organization purposes. You're going to have your 4 dry erase markers. You're going to have a new landscape tile that relates to torches, a new standing stone tile for torches, a new rest token if you're playing with that module with torches, and a new glacier tile if you're playing with that module that has a painting related benefit on it. You will have 5 level 1 artifacts that have painting related benefits on them, all of them, that you can add to the game if you are playing with cave paintings. You will have a new tribesperson that gives you painting related things when you paint, and that can be added to the game. And finally, 1 new animal type that again has painting related benefits on it. Also in cave paintings, you will have 8 of these small stands for the cave painting whiteboards. I am putting these in my player boxes, which I'll show you in a moment. With Rivers and Rafts, you're going to see 3 river tiles. You're going to get your headwaters tile and your delta tile, or outflow to the sea tile. And you will have then also a new tribe card, which doesn't have any benefits that are necessarily specific to Rivers and Rafts, so you could use this with just the base game, but is especially useful with Rivers and Rafts as you're trying to take control of things. You will have your landmark tile, or tokens, I guess, your monolith and everything, and your 5 cards that go with those for adding those to the game. You will have a new animal that will give you fish. You will have all of your fish tokens that give you extra benefits when you get them and reveal them. You will have a new standing stone tile that relates to playing on river spaces. You will have also for each player a boat, canoe, and a starting spot that will go onto the map. These, again, I have placed these in my my player trays, so they are not all here, but you'll get one of these for each player color. Finally, the small promo add-ons. We have the 3 sort of card pack modules that all come with a card or cards that has the rules on. The Mammoth Mini, which comes with a piece of paper that I'm going to slip into my Ancestors rulebook for safekeeping. And then if you have the Squirrel Nut promo and the Yeti promo. For solo play, you'll need the following components. You have a sort of guide card, one large, one small. You have the map cards, which are the small cards here. You're going to have nomad cards, which are going to tell you what the AI is going to do. And then you have a nomad token. I will cover base game components as I load the game tray and the game box. And I'm also going to be incorporating the expansion content as I go. So this first spot here is for your monolith boards. So you're going to have your 4 that come with the base game, either the dual layer kind or the single layer, if that's what you have. And then you'll also want to add your cave paintings monolith board for when you incorporate that. Then you're going to have your terrain tiles. You'll have your start terrain, and I organize, since you start with a certain number of glacier tiles and then at least one of each of the terrain types. I'm loading my game box with one of each terrain types, then my glacier tiles, and then the other terrain types sort of shuffled together just for ease of setup. And then finally to that, you're going to add also the additional tile that you got with cave paintings, and I am just going to put that at the back here. Your chiefs will stay in the areas they came in, and you might just want to take note of who's where for ease of putting things back, or put some labels in the bottom of the spaces. And then there's also an empty spot for your mammoth if you have the mammoth expansion. In the center here, you're going to have tokens for optional modules that are described in the back of the rulebook. There's the glaciers, which randomizes getting stuff when you discover or uncover glaciers, and those go in there. And then you're also going to have the extra glacier token from the cave paintings expansion if you're playing with that. There is also a module that gives you extra stuff when you rest, and those go in this little container, and there is an extra one again from cave paintings. This space here is going to hold all of your standing stones, your level 1 ones, your level 2 ones, and then you will also have extras, one from cave paintings, one from Rivers and Rafts. Those are both level 1, and they do fit in just at the edge. Pretty tight, but it all fits in there. In this small card space here, we're going to fit most of the animals. I have all of my base game animals. They're shuffled together because I played the game, and they come in all of the different animal symbol types here down at the bottom, and those are going to go in very nicely here quite easily. Then I have all but one of the extra animals that come with the Ancestors expansion will also fit in here as alternates. Then I'm going to have a baggie, which I'll get back to where I'm putting those and why this doesn't all fit in the insert, that will have the last animal from Ancestors, will have my extra animal from the Cave Paintings expansion, my extra animal from Rivers and Rafts, and then also my Yeti and Squirrel and Nut promos. So all of this is going to go into a separate baggie for animals. In this box here, which was originally intended for solo cards and chief cards, I've moved the chief cards somewhere else. I'm going to put the card deck modules in here. I am putting the 5 landmark cards from Rivers and Rafts in here. And then I am putting all of the solo play content, both sizes of cards and the Nomad token, are also going to slip into this slot here. And that will keep those things all together for when I want to solo. This tray up here is going to be my artifacts and my chiefs, and other setup stuff is going to go up in here. So I have my base game, my cover card, my level 1 artifacts, my level 2 artifacts, which are flipped over for some reason, but they keep them separate. And then I also have the level 1 and 2 from Ancestors, which I could just shuffle in here again if I wanted to, but I've got them separate for now. And then I have my 5 level 1s from Cave Paintings. And I'm just going to keep alternating these front and back so that those groups are fairly easy to separate out. Then I have my 5 base game chiefs, and then I have my alternate chief cards from the Ancestors expansion. It would make sense to sort of sort these together by chief, but I just have them separate for now. Easy enough to find them. There's only 5 of each. And then I have the small cards that have the action phases and starting cards and starting these starting cards as well that we're going to need for setup. So I'm going to put those in there. And finally, the round tracker, I'm just going to slip right in there because it fits quite nicely and it's part of setup. Now we have tribe cards, and this is where things get just a little interesting. Sadly, the base game cards do not quite fit into the small container there. So you could leave the base game cards here, put in the other stuff behind as you see fit, or you could separate them by the type of each card. Since you are only going to ever use one of each type, it might make sense, depending on how you're going to play the game and how many modules you're going to incorporate on a regular basis, to put all of the flame symbol cards together, followed by all of the person symbol cards, etc. I would do it in the order that they are on the player board, and then you can put out the cards that you need as you go. I, for now, am going to put all of my base game cards here because I know that the next time I play it, I'm going to be playing with somebody who I'm teaching the game to. So I'm just going to be using the base game cards. I'm going to put my 2, the one from Rivers and Rafts and the one from Cave Paintings, at the back. And then I will have to separate the Ancestors ones into segments to make them fit in. I think it can be 3 and 2. Let's see if that works. Yes, indeed. So that's just how I have them in here for now, but how you organize these cards is really going to be up to you and how you're playing the game. Fitting everything into the base game box requires using all the nooks and crannies. So I've got my 4 dry erase markers stacked here on this side. I've got a baggie with my landmark meeples into the space between the trays there. My fish tokens are in a baggie that I'm sticking over in this little hole, and then finally my baggie with my extra animal cards will go here just below this high point there, so everything will fit in next to it. So over here on top of the player trays, we are going to add the cave painting boards. We're going to put 1 on this side and 3 on this side. And on top of the 1, we will have the river tiles from Rivers and Rafts, and on top of the 3, we will put the delta and headwaters tiles, which make a nice flat surface. On top of that, we'll put in the player boards, then the animal board and extra action space board from Cave Paintings, and the idle board on top of that. And then on the other side of the box will go the main game board, and on top of this all will be the rule books and the lid, clearly. So that is everything into the base game box, pretty darn full. All that said, I recommend that if you have the shelf space for it, to keep one of the expansion boxes to put most of the expansion content in, or all of the expansion content in this case, and incorporate it slowly so you don't get overwhelmed with a lot of components you're not using when you're trying to set up the base game. I have used the Rivers and Rafts expansion, which is the smallest of the boxes that everything will fit into. If you want to future-proof yourself and give yourself a little bit more wiggle room, you might choose the Cave Paintings box instead. The Ancestors box will not fit everything, but up to you if you want to like put some of it in the base game box, etc. So I've got my Cave Paintings cards, or boards, and pens. I've got all of my alternate tribe cards and artifact cards from the expansions in here. They are ever so much slightly taller than the box edge. I'm just going to treat it carefully. But if you're like really not wanting to make sure you don't damage any edges of cards, you might want to like rethink how this goes. I have all of my alternate animal cards with the exception of the Squirrel and Squirrel and Nut and Yeti promos. They fit in there, and then you're going to put your river tiles in. It's a pretty tight fit side to side. It does go, but you might choose to take one of the sets of animals out of there and put it into the baggie with the promo cards. Again, if you want to just give yourself a little bit more wiggle room. Those are the artifact cards that I had separated out, so those go in there as well and make it nice and tight. Then you're going to have your Headwaters and Delta tiles from Rivers and Rafts, your extra player board from the Cave Paintings expansion, your extra monolith tile from Cave Paintings, your extra landscape tile from Cave Paintings, and then I have a few baggies that I've put together. I have a baggie with fish in it. I have the baggie with the landscape tiles, landmark tiles, and I have a baggie that has the landmark cards in. And then I have put the separate modules into baggies. I guess I put two of them in the same baggie, but the baggies for modules. And then my Yeti and Squirrel and Nut promos are in a baggie, and then the extra tiles that get used for glaciers, rest tokens, and standing stones if you are adding the expansions. So all of this then fits into this, and you could take out the individual player pieces, the stands for the whiteboards, and the boats, and put them in here as well if you really don't want to confuse your players with extra bits they're not using. They would definitely fit in here as well, but I'm going to leave them in the player boxes because that doesn't bother me. So this then puts everything into the base game box, and then you have sort of extras box that you can then take things out and add to your base game as you're incorporating those expansions.